Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar with Annika Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley, and I'm hosting Jordan Munton today. He's going to be talking about a practical guide to becoming a Google Ads superhero. Please say hi in the chat. You'll also notice that there's the Q&A section there. There's also a handout, so if you want to go and download the handouts, you can. I'm going to quickly start with a couple of polls. I'm going to do this so we can get an understanding of the level of knowledge in the room. And then also, I'm going to have to read them out because it isn't shown in the video. So I'm going to start polling now. It should come up on your screen. So the first question, if you could answer this, please, is do you or your company currently use paid search PPC? In either Google, Bing, or another platform? There are a few others coming out now. No, I'm just learning, or I'm trying to secure a budget. No, it's someone else's responsibility, but I want to understand what's involved. Yes, I'm currently running ads myself, or I'm part of an in-house team. Yes, we're currently running ads through an agency or a freelancer. You can actually click more than one. So if you're doing both, that's fine. Yes, we are an agency or a freelancer that runs ads for other companies and other, just in case there's any software providers or any teachers or anything else in the room. So, okay, as I suspected, we've got about 20% aren't actually running ads at the moment. So they're obviously here to learn today. A third of you are actually running ads yourself or as part of a team. That's definitely the most popular. And in fact, that's just gone up to 40%. Then we've got a pretty even split between it's somebody else's responsibility, we're running through an agency or freelance, or you're actually an agency as well. So that's quite a mixed audience again today. We were just discussing this. So if there's anything that you're completely new or you don't understand, please put a question in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll try and answer it as Jordan's talking. So let's go to the next poll. So this is for the people that are actually running ads. So obviously, if you're not running ads at the moment, then don't bother to answer this. And there's quite a lot of questions and answers here. If you're currently running ads, how are you doing your account optimization? We're not doing any optimization. The account has just been set up and left to run. Our account consists of smart campaigns, so we rely totally on Google to run it for us. We have seen a sort of a polarization of people that just rely on Google and then the people that are doing the more sophisticated stuff. So Annika, for example, uses lots and lots of sophisticated techniques, whereas a lot of our clients that come on board, they may have just set up a completely automated account. Now, for the ones that are actually doing some automation, the first is, or some optimization, the first is we just manually check the account monthly, for example, but have very little knowledge of optimization techniques. And I've just realized I haven't hit the start polling button, so apologies for the people that are waiting for me to do that. We manually optimize the account daily and weekly and have a process in place. So once you've been doing optimization for a while, you tend to have a checklist that you work through. So hopefully you can see the poll now and we'll start to get some answers. You might have to close the one that you had open before just so you can see the second poll. Jordan, is it on the screen? Oh yes, people are starting to fill it in now. Yeah, oh that's good. We manually optimize daily and weekly and have a process in place. We also use some assisted optimization techniques, which is what we're going to be talking about a lot today. So scripts, experiments, automated bidding, etc. We use some free suggestion tools. So we often have AdZoomer in the room. So I thought I'd give them a bit of a shout out today. But you've also got things like WordStream. We pay for a specialist optimization software such as Optimizer, which is our preferred tool because it's a monthly fee and it's designed for agencies. We pay for a special optimization tool such as Merin or Kenshu, where there's often a monthly fee and a percentage of spend. So they're often quite expensive. And a lot of people only really use that if they're spending sort of 10, 50, 100 grand a month on their ad spend. Okay, so the most popular choice at the moment is we manually optimize daily or weekly. That's about 40%. The next most popular choice is that we're just checking once a month, but they don't really understand optimization processes. And then there's about 13 or 20% of people that either just left it to run or are letting Google optimize it. And you guys, you're the ones that are really going to get a benefit from today, because if you optimize your account, you can save loads and loads of money. And actually, even if you're going in monthly, we've got some great tips for you. So I think that's the poll for now. So I'm going to close the poll down and I'm going to pass it over to Jordan. Just a couple of things. You will be getting the video round in a couple of hours, and you can always go over to the Annika site where we have got the resource center right in the top menu. It's called Conferences and Webinars, and you should be able to go and get all the presentations, including the ones from the conference, and also we then put all the upcoming stuff in as well. So I just stick that in the chat. So I'm going to close down my camera. I'm going to be doing the chat, and I'll come online about 5 to, so you know where you are and how many, you know, that we're nearly at the end. So thanks a lot, Jordan. Good luck, and knock 'em dead.
Hi everyone, as Anne says, my name's Jordan. You can probably see on this intro slide that before lockdown I tended to have a haircut once in a while, so I think out of the Annika staff I'm probably up there with the worst, but it's all good fun. So yeah, my name's Jordan, as I say. A little bit about me. I'm a sort of a massive F1 fan, particularly I like Lando Norris, sort of McLaren as well, I like them. Don't really like Hamilton or Mercedes so much, and I think Anne might not like that too much either. Big football fan, so obviously with lockdown as it is, there's been a lot of football on, which has been good for me, but I haven't been able to play football. I like to obviously go to beer gardens and cocktail bars, and go to the cinema, which obviously I can't both do at the moment. And I graduated 2 years ago, and sort of had a little funny photo for my grandma. So I always like to include that one. So I've been at Annika for about a year and 3-4 months, I think, roughly speaking. And I sort of started at Annika as an intern before that, and then got asked to come back and be part of the PPC team, the paid search and paid social team. So this is sort of some of the clients that we work with currently. Some of these are obviously paid search and some are paid social, and then we've got the SEO and the PR sort of bits in there as well, but that's sort of some of the companies we work with. So introducing paid search account optimization. I know obviously with search engine optimization that gets talked about a lot, but this is just obviously for paid search. So optimization is the process of making incremental changes to an account setup to improve its performance. So, you know, not making massive changes and expecting it to improve. That might do, you know, you might get a couple of quick wins that way, but actually it's the sort of time investment going in daily, weekly, monthly, and doing little changes and tweaks just to get the sort of maximum performance. So the purpose of optimization, firstly, the big one is to save money. So if you're one of that 20% who are just putting your ads live and just leaving it to it, you're probably not getting the most for your money. I know with the new ad accounts, they sort of have auto applying, where Google will automatically apply sort of their recommendations for optimizations if you haven't turned it off. But again, it's not quite the same as going in weekly or monthly or even daily to sort of optimize. And the reason for that is when you're going in and doing that weekly sort of search term report, obviously it depends on how big your account is. If you've got like 10,000 search terms a week, you want to be going in quite often, just so that the workload doesn't sort of collect up, and then by the end of the month you've got to go through 100,000 or whatever it may be. So yeah, you're removing them search terms that aren't relevant, and you're removing them placements that might be, you know, they might be damaging, they might again be irrelevant, they might be sort of apps, so mobile apps. So if you've ever played a free game and you've sort of played your game, then an ad comes up, and then you try to click off it and you end up clicking onto it. That's where you can sometimes find your ads with sort of display. Again, the people were never interested in going onto your page or seeing more about your company, but that's cost you money because they've been trying to carry on with their free game that they've downloaded. And of course, with this as well, when you optimize, you can improve your quality score. That we'll talk about later and explain. Of course, the higher your quality score, you tend to pay less for them bids because the quality score has some weight. If you've got a low quality score and you're competing for that top page bid, you're going to have to pay more for it when you're against someone who's maybe paying less but got a higher quality score. So another one is brand protection. So this sort of comes into the negative list optimizations. So you can sort of take out big words like scandal, broken, hacked, complaints, stuff like that. So you don't want your ad, the thing that if people click on, you're going to be charged for, to start appearing for, for example, Annika scandal. Well, there's never been a scandal, but if someone would search Annika scandal, it might come up in our with one of our ads if we're sort of bidding on our brand name as Annika. That can also it could happen if you're doing dynamically inserted keywords as well. So that's where if someone searches Annika scandal and we're bidding on Annika, it automatically inserts their search term into the headline. So it'd be Annika scandal, and then it would say whatever it normally says afterwards. And again, people would probably likely click on that to see the scandal. It'd be charging you money for it, and then they'd just be bouncing straight off, and that obviously then start to affect your sort of bounce rate as well. So it keeps you up to date as well. So if you're just leaving it once a month, then there's going to be a lot of new search terms that are appearing. So 15% of daily searches on Google Ads are brand new. So if you're not going in sort of weekly and sort of checking them new searches, there could be new searches that you actually want to add as a keyword. You want to be bidding on them, or maybe you've got your negative lists, but some find their way through them, and you're getting these relevant searches coming through that you haven't yet excluded because you've never seen them before. So it sort of keeps your account up to date, and sort of again saves you money by removing them irrelevant searches or placements. And the last one, it sort of relates back to the first one again, is you want to maximize your budget. So again, you want to remove all of them irrelevant placements and search terms, and them keywords as well, potentially, that are costing you a lot of money, but you've maybe never seen a conversion from them in the last year or so, or whatever it may be. And you want to be using that budget you've got in the right places. So if you've got several campaigns running, and you might have them in priority order, so you might have a priority 1, 2, and 3. So priority 1 are the ones which you may deem to return the most money, or have the best sort of return on ad spend. So when you do have extra budget, you tend to go to priority 1 and see if you can put the budget in there, if it will take more budget. And again, if that priority 1 is being maxed out and you've got no more budget, but then your priority 3 is really low return on ad spend, what you then do is take money out of your priority 3 and put it into your priority 1. So you're basically moving your money around just to try and get the best return on ad spend. So methods of optimizing your ads account. So as Anne mentioned, most of this is to do with manual optimization. I sort of took that decision because when I was sort of first entering the sort of industry, it was all well and good sort of having these presentations on the theory of optimization, but what I sort of really needed was the nitty gritty and sort of screenshots of what you'd actually see if you went into the account. And I was sort of a marketing manager briefly before joining Annika, and I sort of didn't have the budget, especially for these paid tools, to buy them. And I know that's companies like Optimizer, it's used mainly by agencies, but if I was to do a presentation on Optimizer, a lot of people maybe wouldn't have the budget, or wouldn't, they're not an agency, so they wouldn't see the benefit of using them tools. So Yeah, so you can do obviously manual optimization. You can do the sort of assisted automated optimization, so alerts, sort of setting rules. So for example, you could turn it off automatically 2 days before Christmas and put it back on 3 days after. You might not be in the office yourself, but over that period, it's not going to get much. Your call to actions might be coolest, but you'll have no one in the office, so you want to automatically turn that stuff off over that period, and that will save you again that money. And then obviously you've got experiments as well, which we'll touch on later on, and how they can help you optimize your campaigns. So you've got your build and leave, so your fully automated Google Ads, so your smart ads, where it's sort of computer learning and generated, and that sort of just manages for you, and Google will happily spend all your money and sort of give you some return to it. They are getting a lot better, so you've got sort of smart shopping ads and stuff like that actually can help as well. So you've got sort of that within Google, and then you've got your third-party software and tools. So again, like Anne mentioned, you got your sort of freemium, so your WordStream and your AdZoomer, which can help sort of your in-house users. But they do require some input and knowledge. So hopefully from this as well, you'll get a little bit of knowledge and awareness of what you want to do when you're optimizing and what you're aiming for and so forth. And then you obviously got your full bid management automation softwares, which I mentioned are pretty expensive, and not many people would probably have the budgets for them either, unless they're spending crazy amounts. So the basic setups of optimizing. So the good to know things. So these are when you're going through your optimization checklist and so on. These are sort of what you want to be thinking about. So you want to be looking at your sort of click-through rates. So is it 1% or higher? That tends to be good on search. But in certain industries, it might be below that, or it might be a lot higher. So it's very industry based. But if you know your industry and you know this is what we've had in the past, and as you run these accounts, you'll start to see a pattern. If you're doing everything right, you'll start to get some sort of accurate information on sort of what your expected click-through rate is and stuff like that, and a little bit of market research. Your quality score, which is a massive one, which we'll touch on later, is that's what you're really, every time you're looking at your ad copy and your keywords and all that, you're wanting to get this quality score as high as possible. So you should work to keep it above 6 as much as you can. And if it's below 6, you can then start to look at it and see where you can better optimize it to get it to increase. And then obviously you want to look at your conversions rates as well, and see sort of, again, that goes back to potentially your priority 1, 2, and 3 campaigns if you were doing it that way. If your priority 1 was really high conversion rates and your priority 3 were really low, then potentially if priority 1 did have it could spend more money, you'd start to put more money into that, because that your conversions and potentially return on ad spend for that campaign is a lot higher. And then you've got your cost per acquisition. So again, this is how much it costs to get each acquisition. So if you're, say for example, that's your product you're selling is £5 and your cost per acquisition is £10, then you're losing money. Whereas if your cost per acquisition is £10 and your product you're selling is £1,000, when you've got your other costs taken into account, that you're getting sort of a profit out of it. So that's so your return on ad spend. This is basically how you work out what your profits can be. So we have clients come to us and they say, right, our return on ad spend needs to be at least 4 or 5, because anything below that and we're losing money, or we're not getting the return we need. So you've got, when you're going through this optimization, you have to have all these things in your head in terms of, at the end of the day, are you making money from your activity, or are you just giving Google money and actually getting nothing from it, apart from some nice little graphs that show you little peaks where you get conversions. And then the last one, of course, is your traffic and your costs. So this is where, if you go into your account daily, if you see a big spike in traffic, or vice versa, you see a big dip and everything just goes flat lines, you can sort of tell, for example, if there's a change in competition or decrease in demand. If your traffic drops, and then you can look and you see a competitor's bidding, and they're just doing a lot better potentially. Or as I say, if everything flatlines, it can be a case that maybe your tracking has gone for whatever reason. And say if you're going daily or weekly, that you can notice that a lot quicker and sort of reduce the impact it has. If you're doing a monthly report to your line manager and 3 weeks of it you have no data because your tracking's gone, but you only checked it once that month, it's, you can't really say, oh, well, I've spent 2,000, but I don't know how many conversions there were. So that can sort of help, and it does just happen sometimes just randomly. Sometimes it's to do with sort of Google updates and stuff like that. So they're sort of things that are good to know. So before you get started, you need to make an educated decision when optimizing. You can't just go in and sort of start messing around with it. So to get an educated sort of decision and information to make that decision, you need to have your conversion tracking for both macro and micro. So your macro, it could be the purchase of a product, or it could be a lead form, whereas your micro might be a newsletter sign up or an ebook download. So you want to get them in place. Your macro is obviously your main goal, but your micro are sort of indicators that that person is in the funnel and may then start to purchase in future. You might have one set up for the users viewing more than 3 pages, and then you can start to create the audience lists around that. And of course, second one is audience lists. This is where you'd set up your observation audiences and stuff like that, so you can gather information on people. We'll touch on that in a little bit. And then you want your Google Analytics accounts linked and importing the metrics as well, just so you can actually start to get that information and chop it up and view it however you want. And then obviously if you're looking to sort of go into videos and stuff like that, you want to be linking up your YouTube channel as well as that. And then obviously it's advised that you start certain structural setups before you even begin. So you do your ad scheduling, your negative keywords and your location targets before, because then as soon as you start spending money, you're getting data from that. And these start filling up your ad scheduling. It starts showing you where clicks and conversions are happening. If you let your spend, you let it go for 3 months and you spent 10,000, and then you put this stuff in, you won't get anything from it. And if you're not put your negative keywords in, you've probably got a lot of wasteful searches and clicks. So in terms of ad scheduling, this is sort of, if you go into the ad scheduling tab, this is what you'll see. So you'll see no scheduling whatsoever. The ads can run whenever they want, and you're just leaving it to its own devices. Whereas if you put very simple scheduling in, so for example, these are just big blocks, one big block, sort of 7 till sort of 9 at night. They don't want to operate in the mornings, and they're closed at weekends. So if the call to action is call the office and they're not in, they just don't want ads showing. So that's very simple, takes 2 minutes to set up, and you're sort of already saving money because you're not spending money where in the morning or at weekends. And then you have your more sort of advanced scheduling. So you can see here the blocks are sort of into little time, little times of like 2-3 hours. And that starts to really isolate where the clicks are coming from. So here you can see there's a really dark square across, whereas if you go into the advanced scheduling, you can see the dark squares are happening around sort of 3 o'clock or maybe sort of 6 to 9 in the morning. You can start to get a little bit more information, and you may also have 2 campaigns running, and they may have the same keywords, but you sort of see them as having the benefit. So you may run one between sort of these times, and then you have no ads running in this little segment in the midday, and that's where you'd then set your other campaign live to operate within there. There are some clients that do that, but that's sort of more advanced, where you start thinking about when you want your ads to appear, not appear, and you start really customizing it for your business and how you want to operate the ads. So moving on to negative keyword lists. So this is where you'd set up all your sort of negative keywords. So at the top you might have sort of your general negative. So this sort of all applied to all campaigns, and these are things that no matter what campaign it appears in, it's going to be irrelevant. If it's, for example, if you're trying to sell bike trainers, for example, the ones sort of you attach to the back of your cycle and then you can sort of cycle on the spot. If you're trying to sell that and searches are coming through for smart trainers to go out in, that's just going to be irrelevant whatever campaign it's in. So you'd put it into your all campaigns, general negatives. You may have, this is more sort of business based, but you may have negatives that are within a company, or for example, if you're selling some form of sort of banking service or whatever it may be, you might start coming up with banking services to shore up rivers or dams or whatever it may be. So if you're getting a lot of them, you can start to then put them into these general negatives as well, and again a company. So if you want to actually target companies in some of your ad group, in some of your campaigns, but in other campaigns you don't, you'd then start to say, right, these are all the companies that are coming through into all these campaigns, and actually we only want companies to start appearing in X, Y, and Z. So that's sort of what you do there. Adult is obviously self-explanatory, sort of that over 18 stuff might start appearing, or search terms around that, and then you have your sort of education. Your general and your all campaigns are this, from this account they're both sort of the same, but this account had two companies within one, so they had two sets of them, but they're sort of the same thing. So you have your education, your job seekers. So these are people searching for training courses or internships, maybe salaries or career or recruiter. So they might be looking for a job or training, whereas you're trying to sell the actual service. If it's, for example, if you're trying to sell sales and people are looking for sales training or sales courses or sales salary, so that it's not going to be relevant. And then of course you've got your PR. So this is where that brand protection comes in. So you have your sort of scandal, your hacks, your complaints, your breaches, maybe the word rubbish, so rubbish Annika services maybe, or something like that. You don't want that appearing, because obviously Annika services aren't rubbish, and that would all go into there. In terms of sort of business specific as well, businesses might be saying Annika logo or Annika managing director, and although they are good searches and people might want to see our logo, they're not necessarily interested in paid search services. So again, you want to sort of get rid of them. And the last one is sort of creating pure campaigns. So this would be where you want to sell a pink Nike football, and you might have a campaign which is branded, so that would have your pink Nike football in there. But then you also might have an unbranded one, which might just be pink football. And that way you can start to see, it all goes back to that return on ad spend and cost per acquisition and so on. You might see, actually, if we sell that pink football via the non-brand, it returns a lot better than if we call it the Nike pink football, which it is. So you can start to create pure campaigns if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty and it works for your business. But again, all of this is obviously related just to your business. Location wise, you want to just get your location set up and sort of start observing them, and then you might see Ireland, for example, starts converting really well, and you start a bit just adjusting these bids because you want to sort of go after that Ireland traffic because it converts better. Again, you want to observe your audiences for the same reason, and I'll show you an example later of where you put them positive things on, but your office supplies might be really good and might be really high converting, so you want to sort of bid for them sort of in market audiences who are looking for office supplies and tend to convert better. So in terms of search term optimizations, you've got three. So you've got your broad negatives, your phrase negatives, and your exact negatives. So negative keywords appear, so it's Spain flights with the phrase, and Spain flights exact. So for exact, it would just get rid of your Spain flights, but flights to Spain, that would all still come through. In terms of phrase, that would be sort of the phrase. So Spain flights, and it could have, words before, after it. It wouldn't really matter. And then for the broad, this is where it's appearing within them words are appearing within the search term. So here you see fly to Spain, which hasn't been negatived, and that's because it doesn't have the flights within it. Whereas if you start looking down here, you have sort of flights to Spain from London. It's got flights in it and it's got Spain in it, so you start to exclude. And that's sort of how you search term optimization. With this as well, obviously you have your exact ones. So it might be certain products they're looking for, but so you'd maybe do that via exact. But for phrase, they might be searching for Maltesers or wherever it may be, and you don't sell them. So they might be saying all types of Malteser products, but you can just put the phrase Malteser and it will then start to cut out everything that has that word within it. It is to note that Google no longer shows all search terms as of September 2020. It even goes as far as to not show you converting search terms sometime as well. So this is, they say it's high volume searches. So you might be getting the odd search which is costing you a couple of pounds, but you can never really optimize it sort of manually because you can never really see it. That's where the other tools sort of come into play, and they can maybe sometimes help you get rid of them search terms. And then you've got your negative optimizations as well. So on the left here, of course, this would be for an English market, and sort of search terms like this. You would not want them, obviously, for certain reasons, and they would start to cost you money as well, and they can sort of add up. So you'd sort of get rid of them. And then on the right hand side here, you have your mobile apps, which I mentioned earlier, which you'd probably want to get rid of. And then you have things like this, like Eurogamer.net, Online Soccer Manager, and they're sort of gaming websites. So again, where people go on their computer and they go onto free gaming websites, they play a game and an ad comes up, and you can see some of these average costs are nearly £4 for a gaming website, where it might be a 15-year-old just wanted to play a free game. So then you move on to bidding. So your basic bid and budget adjustments, and you sort of want to consider several things. So as I mentioned earlier, your campaign budget might be maxed out. So is that campaign delivering the desired results, or is another one doing better? And that's where you'd start to move your budget. Are other campaigns using all their allocated budget? So you might have £50 for budget A and £50 for budget B, but actually budget B is only spending £25 a day. And you got that extra £25 that you might then want to move into budget A. The budget A is returning a good ad spend and needing more money. This comes obviously back to how much Google says the campaign could spend. So it's sort of recommended when the budget is limited. It will say your budget could spend up to £10 more a day, or whatever it may be. And you got to think, is that campaign being limited for a reason? So it might be limited to £5 a day, and it's saying it could spend £50 a day, and you might not set the account up. And that's where you'd then look on your return on ad spend and your cost per acquisition and all that, and actually say, yes, the person who set this up did it because it's good to have it, but for a very limited budget, because if we don't control it, it'll just spend and not actually return sort of the desired results. And that's where then when you go to do your month at the end, your report at the end of the month, you'd see sort of a high cost per acquisition, and then when you go into your account, you'd see it's from that campaign which has spent a lot and not really returned much. And then also with these basic bid adjustments, you need to see, for example, if your keywords aren't shown on the first page. So you might want them to show on the first page, but they're not. So you need to start to consider why. So what is Google saying the bid should be? So again, if it's saying it's below first page bid, it will give you a recommendation of what it should be to get onto the first page. And what is your average cost per click for each keyword? So you might be bidding £1, but actually the average cost per click is 50p. So you could start to take that budget down, that cost per click down, and vice versa. It also comes down to, is your campaign budget high enough? So your average cost per click might be £3, but your daily campaign budget might be £10, and you might have a lot of keywords within that. So you would get maybe 2-3 clicks before your budget is maxed out. And sometimes you might even have your cost per click at, say, £12 and your daily budget is £10. So it starts to really affect you. Need to sort of look at them things. Again, with device bids and adjustments, when you sort of go into the device tab, you can start to then find this information and sort of see how your devices are performing. So again, here you might put a negative bid adjustment on because cost per conversion is way out of what you expect it to be. You're expecting it to be around, say, 40 or 30, and it's nearly 70. So you want to still be bidding on that mobile, on the mobile phone, because it is generating conversions, and it's got a good click-through rate, and it's got a good cost per click. But at the moment, it's not returning that cost per conversion, so you want to reduce your bids, and vice versa. This one is doing very well. A lot of conversions, a good cost per conversion, good conversion rate compared to mobile. But you might not necessarily want to positively adjust it, because you might be saying that cost per conversion is still too high, but it's good enough not to negatively adjust it. One thing you need to check, especially when you sort of start out and you start seeing these little conversions coming through and half conversions, is when you say half conversion, it can sort of kick out the information. So what it does is it basically, obviously it's only 50% of conversion, so it sort of times it by 2. So it's only cost you 26 quid in total, but if that was to be a full conversion, it would have been cost 2 of that, so it would have cost £52 overall. So you start looking at this, and if you look at the wrong figure, you start thinking, oh, we've spent £52 on mobile phones when actually you've only spent 26. Just something to sort of keep an eye on. So when I was on about audience targeting, this is what you would do. So you'd see that, for example, office supplies are really good, or in this case, conversions that you've set up an audience for are actually, that's where you want to go after. So you sort of do these bid adjustments, and you might also do negative ones as well. But that's generally what you can start to do within it. And obviously you'd have your targeted settings as observation for that. And then you can, you start seeing how you can improve. And then, so this again comes down to ad scheduling. So earlier, obviously, I showed the more in-depth sort of these little segments. And then what you can do with them segments is, if you're seeing conversions are happening here or here, these are what these little orange bars are when you've put bid adjustments onto the account. So you might be bidding 50% more for 12 to half 3, because that's where your conversions are happening, and vice versa. But when you're looking at this top table, you also want to be looking at the table underneath, which starts again telling you your cost per conversions. So you might see Friday actually gets you a couple of conversions, and you might want to start positively bidding on it. But then when you double check your cost per conversion, you start to see, actually, I don't want to bid on that because it's still way too high. I don't want to sort of be bidding on this sort of bad investment. Whereas you might see Fridays, if this had a couple more conversions and its cost per conversion, its conversion rate was a lot higher, you'd go after that traffic and positively bid, because the clicks that go on click between 3 and 6, for example, have a higher conversion rate. So although them cost per clicks are costing you money, that each click realistically is going to probably convert a little bit more. So targeting unique to Bing Ads, there's sort of 3. So there's job functions, industry, and company. So this is where you can start to target individuals. So you might want to target the finance and education sectors, for example, and and then you start to pick out, it might be the design within, for example, education. This is just, obviously, you probably wouldn't do this, but you can sort of start to really customize how you target these three. And then you might want to target, like Samsung retailers within finance. If they're in finance job function, and they work at Samsung, and you can start to really target and sort of narrow down and create these sort of unique audiences that you want to go after as well. So I'm just a bit cautious of time. This is why I'm speeding through it a little bit too quickly. But I've got loads to cover. So you want to make your search ads work harder. So you want to review your ad setup. So are you using the recommended 3 ads per ad group? So that's your champion. Then you tend to have a sort of contender. And then what we've started to do now is, with the sort of responsive search ads, they seem to be getting better over the last 6 months. So the third ad you might do is a responsive search ad. And when we go on to quality score, you'll see sort of what that can help you with. Again, when I mentioned earlier, make sure your ads are not auto applying. So this is where it's auto applying your optimizations. Them sort of optimization sort of tabs that say you could spend X amount more if you do this, or if you apply this keyword, you could get 10 more searches, and it starts applying that sort of stuff. So your ad performance indicators. So if it's a responsive ad, what is the ad strength? If you're looking in it's all poor, then realistically it's not going to help you too much. But if you're looking in there and they're good or excellent, then it's going to help you out a little bit more. Do your ads perform the same? So again, this is what comes down to sort of your champion and your contender. Your champion would maybe be one which has the click-through rates and the conversion rate and everything really high, and it's doing really well. And then your contender would be a new ad potentially, which you've taken out the good bits of the champion and try to add more to it just to get that incremental increase in conversion rate or whatever it may be. So steps to take. So especially with the responsive search ads, that sort of dictates how strong your ad is the keywords included in your headlines and your descriptions. You want to test your different call to action messages. So this comes into the champion and the contender. You want to use a variety of headlines for responsive ads. So they automatically put them into sort of headline 1, 2, and 3. And if they're very similar, it's not going to look too good to the customer and it's not going to offer much benefit. So you want them call to action messages to be and the headlines to be varied throughout. You want to pause out the worst performing ads and add in the new variations. This comes obviously back to the contender. So you set up your initial 3 ads and then you might see that one ad doesn't perform as good as the other. So you'd pause it out and then put a new one in and sort of experiment and see if that can improve and do better than the champion. And then you also want to sort of test different landing pages as well, because it might not be down to your ad copy. That is the issue. It might be when they get onto the page. And this is where you'd see in Google Analytics potentially, your bounce rate and so on. They might get onto the page and it might be not what they're looking for, or the information might not be very easy to see. So they'll just jump straight back off. So you want to review your video ads as well. So potentially you want to look at 30% or more view rate. And when you're looking into your analytics as well, you might see there's a big drop off after 5 seconds, and that's where they can skip the ad. So you can start to look at that. And if you've got multiple videos, you can start to compare and have that sort of champion and say this one is a view rate of 50% or 75%, and this other one is only 20%. Let's change that for another video and see what can happen. So experiments. The experiments are only available in search and display. You can schedule up to 5 experiments for a campaign, but you can only run one at a time, obviously, because that's it's the original versus an experiment, and you can't do original versus experiment, original versus different experiment. It would just confuse it, and it wouldn't actually give you the data properly. So you may want to schedule an experiment to begin in the future to prevent sort of it not working quite right, because sometimes, depending on how big your campaign is, it takes a bit of time for it to actually go live. And if one is live and one isn't, the experiment sort of doesn't get off to a good start. You can decide what percentage of the original campaign. Mainly you'd go 50-50, share the budget evenly, and then you can sort of get more results from that as well. So you've got all your different types of experiments here. I won't go through them because obviously I haven't got too much time, but you can see here sort of the explanation of each one and why you would test each one. If you'd test your bidding strategies, cost per acquisition, so you do you'd optimize to maybe go for top impression share, or you might do and you might verse that with manual cost per click, and that's sort of what you can do there. So in terms of quality score, this is sort of the major part. So the quality score is a grade that Google provides to indicate the relevancy of different elements of your account. So you can go into the keyword tab into your dashboard and modify the columns, and the table will display the quality score, and it'll give you between 1 and 10, and it's based on the click-through rate, the landing page, and the ad relevancy. And then 3 work together to sort of give you that out of 10 mark. And quality score is really important because it determines if your ad is shown and how much you pay. So as I mentioned earlier, if you've got low quality score, you tend to have to pay more to appear, as you would if you had a high quality score, the bid would be lower. So you can influence your quality score by the way you set up and optimize your account. So we'll sort of move on to this, and you'll see why that is. So the 3 grades you can have are below average, average, and above average. So below average means that your click-through rate, your ad and keyword combination, or your landing page aren't performing as relevant as expected. They might not be relevant enough, or you might have an ad group which has loads of varying keywords in it. So you might want a solution to get this sort of to average or above average would be to create a tightly themed ad group to make sure your ads are actually closely related to that small group of keywords. So that comes back to when you're writing your ad copy, you want to include keywords, and if your ad group has got 10 keywords in it, you can't really do that. So that's how you potentially improve it to average or above average, where there's no major problems in comparison to other keywords across Google Ads, but it isn't as relevant as it could be. And that's where your expanded text ads would be okay. And then you have your responsive ads, which would provide more keywords. So you could have 20 headlines with all different, the keyword in there, all different types of way. And that way it would, improve your relevancy, which is obviously one of the 3 things that impact quality score. So ad relevance, so it comes down to how well your ad matches what the user's searching for. So if they're searching for red bikes and yours comes up and it talks about red cars, it's not really relevant, and your score is going to be very low. So that's where, if you're selling red bikes and red cards, you'd do an ad group for red bikes, of course, and the varying keywords for that, and maybe one for red cars and the varying keywords for that tightly around obviously the red car keyword. So featuring keywords from your ad group within your ad obviously helps your relevance, and it helps to keep a close monitor on the search terms triggering. And this all comes back to the search term optimizations and making sure that the search terms that are appearing are relevant to your ad. So the expected click-through rate is a prediction, so it's different from the actual click-through rate that you'll see in the column in your account. So this one considered how well the keyword performs both within your account and across advertisers' accounts. So some of it you can control, some of it you can't, but you can start to do it with obviously the responsive search ads. If you can improve that click-through rate through there, Google will start to see actually, people actually want to click through this, and the expected click-through rate might increase, and again improve your quality score. So it's possible to have a high quality score and a low expected click-through rate, or vice versa, because obviously the quality score takes into account a lot of different factors, and that's where you can then start to isolate. So when you're doing your optimizations and your account checks, you can start to see actually the quality score is a 7 or a 6, but it's saying my my relevancy isn't as good as it could be. So that's where you then go back in and try and make your ad a little bit more relevant, and that's where you can then start to go to 7 and 8 and so forth. So that's where you do your little incremental changes to improve your account and save money. So your landing page experience, again, there's sort of a lot of words that you can read through, but the main thing that you can pick out of this is sort of these bolded ones. So it's relevant, it's got to be specific to what they're searching for. It's got to be also general. So if the user is wanting to look at cars, you don't want to just provide them a BMW. You might want to provide them a homepage which has all the different companies, and then they can go to BMW or they can go to Volkswagen. But if they are looking for a BMW car, you'd want to send them to that BMW page. So again, this all comes back to sort of transparency and trustworthiness. So you want to clearly state, what your business does and how it does it. Make it easy to find contact information, and make it easy and make it clear why you're asking for it and what you'll do with it. So you don't want to hide information away, because obviously Google doesn't, when it crawls your website, it doesn't look favorably on that. It sort of wants it to make it clear to the user. So Google doesn't want people to go onto your website and hunt around for information. They don't want you to annoy them with loads of pop-ups. They really want you to make it as easy as possible and to help the customer. Because obviously from Google's point of view, if you're searching on Google, you want to find a product. If you can't find that product very easily, you might then start to look on Bing, because Bing might show you them products. They want people to carry on that, stay on their platform because it's easy to use. And then of course you want to make your landing page sort of loading time as fast as possible, because a lot of people are very impatient, and you've probably done it yourself. If the page isn't loading in 2 or 3 seconds, you just click off it and go on to another sort of ad or another search term. So you want to do it as quickly as possible. And actually this is really important because there's the core update coming in May, and that's all around this page experience update. So that's your loading speed, how you can interact with the website, and how easy it is to find stuff. So if you're hiding information behind, you're really slow, especially on mobile, to load up them pages, and it's not very interactive, then you're going to start seeing that Google stops, especially for organic, stops showing your website because it just isn't what Google wants to show the user anymore. So in terms of recommendation tab, this is where I mentioned about how if you've got auto applying on, it starts to apply some of these. But this is a really easy and quick sort of thing to go in with Google, and you can start to see what Google has recommended. So they can also pick up on if your keywords are competing with each other in different ad groups, and then you can obviously pause them, or you can also do it where you might have added a negative keyword accidentally, and it actually might be then taking out loads of your keywords. So if you've negated off car, and the main thing you do is car, so your keywords are around red car, blue car, and your negative keyword is car, all them keywords wouldn't start showing, would stop showing because you've you've sort of done a negative search term, negative search list on it. So to conclude, you should be making daily, weekly, and monthly checks across your account. So your daily checks are your budgets, your disapprovals, and your traffic levels. This all helps with, as I said earlier, making sure your tracking's in place. If conversion's just a flat line and they're normally quite consistent, you can see there's something gone wrong. Or a disapproval, again, I haven't really mentioned shopping ads because they're sort of slightly different setup. But if they're getting disapproved and you're not going in there daily, it could be several days until you can get them back up and running, and it could be for the smallest thing. And again, budgets, you might want to be changing around budgets on a daily basis and making them incremental changes. Weekly checks, you want to do your search terms, your additional negatives, your bid levels, your ad performance, your placements. So you give the account a little bit more time for these things to build up the information, and then you can go through and do all your sort of search times and optimize. And then your monthly checks is sort of more longer term as it says, a longer term thing. So you're targeting your long term ad performance and your keyword performance. So if you took it over 2 or 3 days, you probably wouldn't get very good information. Whereas if you take it over a month, of course, there's more information and the results are more reliable. And when obviously you're doing your quality scores, you want to make a record of your current ones, and then when you make the improvements each month, go back in and basically update your notes and start to see if you're seeing keyword quality scores go up, or ads quality scores go up after you've potentially made them more relevant by improving your landing page or making the ads more relevant. So sort of the key takeaways is optimization is all about improving your account and making it more efficient. And you should be making use of the Google recommendation tab, but it shouldn't be sort of your Bible. You should also be looking into the account yourself, because you can potentially pick up stuff that Google hasn't recommended. Don't be afraid to dismiss their suggestions, because sometimes it might not be in line with what your company wants. You might not want to spend more money, or you might not want to improve the cost per click, because if you did that, then your profit would just disappear. So you sort of need to take it with a bit of salt when you're looking at that. Further things to consider, as I say, I didn't really mention shopping, but you want to sort of look at optimizing your shopping feed and things that you could do with that. And you want to optimize your account structure. So this all comes back to your ad groups and your keywords. So this can be quite time consuming depending on how sort of bad the structure is, and that can obviously affect your quality score. And this is something Anika can help with if it's something you need, where we can go in and restructure the whole account for you, and then sort of give it back to you in a better way. And because that can really sometimes impact your quality score, as I say, your ad groups and everything are all over the place. So these are references obviously used, so you can go into here and do a little bit more research on quality score from Google themselves and sort of what they say about it. And I believe that's everything. I think I've just got in time. I've had to rush through that a lot.
That was no, your timing was perfect. Well done.
Yeah, I did want to go through it a little bit more, but it's running out of time, so I've had to speed over it. But you should be able to reference it if you go back through it and see it.
And of course, we'll send the recording round later. For the very newbies, one of the things I thought that we probably wasn't quite explained on the slide was the difference between the keywords that you bid on and the search terms that actually get found for. And of course, you can go into the keyword tab and reveal all of that. So that's a really useful tool, because it also will show you some of the things where you'll see those phrases that really you should negative out. But you can also use it to add additional key phrases in as well. Okay, well, thanks very much, Jordan. That was brilliant. I'm just going to put a couple of offers up, and a few house notices. So first of all, we've got next Friday is Ed. Ed's one of our most regular speakers. He's in charge of analytics and data, and he's going to be talking about how you combine analytics and also data studio reports so that you can actually audit your account. So it's a more effective way of auditing rather than just going into analytics, especially if you're auditing lots of accounts. So if you hit the button now, you can register for that one. The other thing I wanted to mention was, although we've pretty much closed the survey we've been doing, we haven't done the analysis yet. So if any of you guys have missed out on doing the survey, this is the 2021 survey and would like to fill it in. I'm probably not going to do any analysis on that until next week. So if you want to sneak in, we will also, it says it's closed, but you can include it. We can still include you. And then that will mean that you'll get a copy of the prize. And then the final thing, I know a lot of you are trying to use your time to educate yourself, and it's great to see so many international people coming on as well. I think we need to make a bit of an announcement about that, George, or see who's come from the furthest today. I just wanted to make a bit of announcement that in the beginning of April, we are going to be doing our DMI CIM course again. This is a 12-day course. It's about the fourth one we've run now. Oh, that's really strange because it doesn't show the BRs when I do it in my preview, but it does here. Sorry, that's meant to be like a page break. Anyway, you can see what I mean. So this is a 12 days of classroom or live stream, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And it's 1 day per week starting on the 7th of April. And there's options to take your DMI and your CIM qualifications. So if you click through to that, you can see, you can actually go through to the page. And right at the bottom, if you go to the tab, you can see all the dates. It's basically every Wednesday for 12 weeks. And it's a whole day. It's taught by the staff. So, you know, if you think about what we cover on the Friday webinars, it's just, you know, a whole day on PPC, whole day on SEO, whole day on email, analytics, etc. And it's really good if you've got junior staff that need to be trained. So apologies for my foobar over the BR. And I think that's it for today. So thanks very much, everybody. And we'll be sending the video round in the next hour or so. Excellent. So Aaron's has been doing the course. He was on the last cohort. And I don't know whether you've done your exams yet to get your DMI registration. But yeah, we'll be starting again in April. Thanks very much, everybody, and thanks, Jordan, for a great presentation. I don't think there's any more questions. I think we've asked them as we've gone along. And we'll see you next week with Ed. Bye.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Thanks, Jordan.